So, welcome everybody. It's nice to see that the temperature's cooling off a little. So, I'll give you the preamble before we make a start. So, when we look at the field of meditation, which is a very, very big field with multiple objects, multiple perceptions, multiple ways of doing meditation, practicing insight, different approaches to life and mindfulness and working through the sense bases. It's a very, very big field, and lots of little knickknacks, lots of things that you can do with this practice to practice, like if you're able to, say even 16, 18 hours a day, just in a very sort of fluffy, gentle manner where you're able to sustain your practice for long periods of time, because many of you guys have been going for at least 5, 10, 20 years plus, and you've got your commitments in lay life, but you're quite committed as far as Dhamma is concerned. So you make adjustments with the practice. You can tweak all the different facets of meditation in different ways to get the best results, say over a full lifespan. Because as all of you are aware, human life is very, very, very sensitive, very precarious mode of birth, and these bodies are subject to all sorts of things and unforeseen circumstances. So whatever time that we've got, before sort of anything incredibly serious comes up, we've got the opportunity to really put forth some effort, because every 5 minutes, every hour of practice, meditation, insight, mindfulness, wisdom in daily life, developing your enlightenment factors and learning the Buddhist teaching, it's like gold in the bank. You can't lose that. So as you develop the strength of your parami, you take the full strength and power of that to your next life. So sometimes a person's spiritual faculties can be compromised. Say for example, you could have a person who's they could be quite a strong meditator, and maybe it could possibly be quite a consistent student of Dhamma, but because of maybe it could even be medical reasons, they have to use very strong pharmaceuticals, and then one's faculties, one's clarity of mind becomes compromised during that time. But in essence, that essentially for most people you can't lose the personal development that you've generated in a conventional way, the mindfulness, wisdom, anything you can possibly think of within the field of the Buddha's training, you will take with you to your next rebirth. And this is something I'm quite really, really firm on, is with everyone, not just the monastics, but the lay disciples that develop that, sort of very consistent practice, day to day, that softly catch you monkey type approach. And then when you have to leave this life at some point, that the vast majority, anyone who's got a consistent practice, we're talking about daily practice, they've got Dhamma in mind, they're thinking about the teachings, they're thinking about, if I get 5 minutes spare, I'll do some sitting or walking, they've got it in the back of their mind on a daily basis. And so the vast majority of those people are reborn in the Devaloka worlds, where you have incredible time spans, and you may have potentially, not saying that I know, but you may potentially have more free time, more space, more free time. Even the Deva beings, they live in these beautiful worlds with beautiful sense objects and perceptions, and the sights, sounds, tastes, touch, smells, very enjoyable realms of existence. But from my opinion, I get this feeling, which I can't necessarily prove, that you may have more potential to realize Dhamma from Devaloka than you do from the human birth, because all of you are well aware of the complexity and the duties and the obligations and everything else that you have to deal with within the human realm. But in the Devaloka realms, it's like a spiritual holiday, a spiritual paradise, but the potential is still there for you to really go a long way, because if you're looking at millions of years, the lowest Devaloka realm, 9.7 million years, and even if you were reborn, even with a person with it could be like, say, dead average faculties as a practicing Buddhist, like just a person who's on the say on the periphery, they might when they get chance, they might do a retreat or this or that. They're present, but they've got just too much on their plate, and constantly their time and energy has been taken up. But even for a person like that who's only reborn in those walls, even say 10,000 instead of the full lifespan 9.7 million, even a person on the periphery of Dhamma who's only born maybe 10,000 or even 20,000 years, you can just imagine what an incredible amount of practice you can do in that time span. And realistically, and I'm absolutely convinced of this, this is not something I can prove, but it makes perfect sense to me, is you should be able to break through to the first level of awakening, the first level of the Four Enlightenment stages. I wouldn't say without even sweating, basically. You wouldn't without like a major struggle, you really should break through to stream entry, like in 10 to 20,000 years realistically. And once you reach that point, there's absolutely, you're completely secure. There's no turning back. You can never ever revert from that state. You're destined for full enlightenment, full realization of Dhamma with very profound meditation inside. The psychic powers don't really matter that much unless you use them for say like insight, wisdom, and understanding. Because the thing with psychic powers, it's like having the internet like inside your mind. You can know and see so many things, just endless stuff. Just like the internet that we see with smartphones and computers and all the rest of it. So yeah, that's the kind of mindset I have. So really, so that sense of you can, even no matter how busy your life is, no matter how what you've got on your plate, that you potentially could break through at least the first stage. So even with the first stage of stream entry, you've got even the slowest of people, you've got a maximum 7 lifetimes. Most people don't go past the first, second life. All the people that we know of in Thailand, the most slow, the most backward of individuals, the people who put their feet up and do absolutely nothing, you cannot go beyond 7 lifetimes before you realize, see the full enlightenment experience where you're completely finished. The path is completely brought to, karma and rebirth is completely brought to an end, and that is the end of the path, with full and complete realization. And for the Sakadagami, no more than 1 or 2, and the Anagami, you go to you've got the 5 pure abodes for Anagami, and people don't go with the Arahata experience. You're just completely extinguished. So anyone who realizes the Arahata stage from the Devaloka or Brahmaloka realms, that person is completely finished. That once that consciousness is fully purified, there is nothing to sustain them within the process of karma and rebirth. That's why the Buddha said cessation without remainder. There is absolutely nothing whatsoever. The physical body is completely finished. Astral, these very fine material, celestial bodies of the devas, the mind-made realms of the Brahma gods. Once that mind is fully purified of all defilements, then that consciousness, those four mental khandhas which make up the consciousness of the human being, will be completely extinguished in every single way. So there's absolutely not a trace of anything physical or mental which will endure or go on in samsara. So everything. That's why it's called cessation without remainder, because there's absolutely nothing left, not a trace, and that's the end of the past. So once you realise the full nature once you realise the full nature of this universe and the nature of mind and body, and then this long journey in samsara comes to an end. Okay, so I'll make us start with meditation. What we'll do a little bit different. This is one of my favourites, but the reason I do this, it's one of the easiest meditations in the world, and even for all beginners, people who come in off the street, within 7 days you can get a handle on this, because it's very neutral, very abstract. It's very difficult to associate this meditation with almost anything, thinking, feeling, the physical body, and it's just that same principle I mentioned previously, where you close your eyes. It's best to sit in a semi-dark or dark room. You close your eyes and you gaze into the blackness. That blackness, that dark color, actually becomes the object of your attention. But it doesn't necessarily work for most people. I mean, I can, for myself, I can get peaceful more quickly with this than virtually anything else, regardless of circumstances. But some people, with their personal makeup, some people have light. Some people have like a predominance of blue light in the mind, or white light. They have white light fading in and out, which is just part of the makeup of their mind, the way their senses are, the way the brain and nervous system is. And so whatever kind of neutral perception is most dominant in the mind, that's exactly where you should place your attention. So what I'll do is we'll give this one a fair spin. We'll do it for 15 minutes, and then for the remainder of the session, we'll do one of Ajahn Brahm's old favourites is the beautiful breath, where you develop the perception of the beautiful on the breath. So, as all of you know, you can look at kittens and puppy dogs and little babies with a perception of how beautiful they are, how cute they are, and that's what you actually. It's a similar thing what you do with the breath. You see the breath as a beautiful object as it's moving in and out, and the reason you do that is it helps to attract your attention to the breath, because the human beings work on the pleasure pain principle. They move towards pleasure, they move away from pain, with one's sort of survival mechanism as a human being. So yes, all right. So we'll do that for 15 minutes, and then that perception, and then I'll talk you through it as we go along. So just get yourself comfortable in a comfortable position. It's good to have the hand. It's good to have the hands together. If your body's all over the place, if your arms and legs are all over the place, your energy tends to disperse. Anyone who knows about Qi Kung, you can just feel, or anyone who's a meditator will just feel it automatically. If your arms and legs are all over the place, your energy tends to disperse outwards. But if one's legs are crossed, not necessarily, if you're sitting on a chair, if you have ankles crossed, or sitting on a stool, it's still quite good. But it helps to draw the energy inwards, and that's what you really want to do with the meditation. You want to move inwards into the mind. And make sure there's nothing tight around the body, waist, throat and wrists, and make sure have your spine upright. Spine is upright, head is upright and comfortable. Make sure you can breathe fully into the base of the abdomen, and just close your eyes and start to gaze into the blackness for the next 15 minutes. As this meditation develops, just try to relax as physically and emotionally as much as possible. As you gaze into the darkness, try to relax all the muscles around the eyes and in the face. Now we're going to move across to the perception of the beautiful breath. So I want you to focus, because we'll make it quite sharp but comfortable. So focus on the feelings around the mouth section, which is fairly sharp, but not too much where people start to get tension in the face. So focusing on the feelings around the mouth area, you'll feel the breath on the periphery. And then I want you to look at the breath, the breathing cycle, as something which is, say, quite beautiful in nature. You know, that the breath is something which sustains you, protects you, protects your physical health. It safeguards your life, and conducive to, you know, one's health and well-being, and all the other attributes which go with being alive. So just as you breathe, as you focus at that point, I want you to look at the breathing, the breath, the breathing as a beautiful object, and slowly over time, maybe after about a couple of minutes, maybe even 5 minutes, you'll start to see that pleasant feeling arise. It's just a way of looking. You know, you can love things, you can despise them, you can, you know, think almost 1,001 things about anything. That, so, you know, looking at the breath as a beautiful object, it's more pleasant experience. You're able to draw your attention more effectively, and you get more depth and stability with the meditation, because the energy, the meditation energy, will tend to be higher than just with a neutral perception of just purely observing. So we use these different perceptions, like, you know, the beautiful breath, happy breath, joyful breath. There's all sorts of different things. Actually, let's see, Venerable Kami used to use the changeable breath as a like an insight-based object. But there's many things you can do. So with this one, just look at the breath as a beautiful object as we continue the session. If you slow the breathing down and slow the breath and breathe more deeply, the pleasant feelings with this perception tend to increase. As the meditation continues, just see if you can see that beautiful feeling arising with this perception of the breath. If you find that you're still thinking excessively, then start to examine, analyze, and contemplate those thoughts, those feelings. If you're stuck on a particular event or person or incident, you need to understand exactly what's happening with that experience, because the more you understand the stuff which is coming up in the mind, the easier it will be for you to let these experiences go. So we're coming towards the end of the session, so just look at exactly what works for you with the meditation, that which increases the quality of the meditation over time. Because this business, a large part of it's all about skillful means, fine-tuning the practice for the best results. So I'll ring the gong 3 times. You can open your eyes when you're ready. Did anybody have any questions on the meditation at all?
So if your meditation is not really working, what is more important to work on, how you live your life in general, or the specific meditation techniques when you're sitting down? 50-50, 90% this, or?
You can combine both. I mean, naturally, it's what I would do, to give you an idea, as we were doing this perception of the beautiful breath, the meditation was reasonable, but I've been doing, say, the earth element for the last probably 6 weeks, and it's much better than that. So if you find the right technique, if certain meditations can work well for some people, but they might be a little bit too, say, light and fluffy. But to give you an idea, this is just a comparison. This earth element, which I'm doing right now, is the best samatha object I've seen of everything that I've done in the last 25 years. So I knew a gentleman who did earth element on the 32 parts of the body with a young married man, 3 daughters, without difficulty. He felt quite okay, didn't have any aversion with the kids, was quite comfortable with it. So it's a combination of there are certain techniques you can do in one's busy lay life, which you can work with. There's lots of something you can easily talk to me about. There's lots of little tricks and methods that you can incorporate into your daily life, say in the world, regardless of how full on you are. But say for example, the main. So all these little techniques can support the main practice. And when you walk and sit, there's certain techniques which are much more firm and solid. Like, say for example, when I do, if I did say love on the breath tends to work quite well. It's something you actually have to experiment with. You say when you've got couples, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, it's a feeling which comes quite naturally to them, a sense of love and care, and that may work very, very well for them. But if all these very pleasant, fluffy type of feelings and perceptions aren't strong enough, they're not firm enough, then you start to work with other stuff that I have in the past, and it's a lot stronger and firmer, and the tranquility effect is much better for myself. So it's just a matter of you've got the little supporting practices that you do, the little tools that you have in daily life. You've got your main practice with sitting and walking, and when you're in retreat. But once you find the right technique, if the soft and fluffy stuff is just not not firm enough, then you get into things like four elements. I mean, the way it feels, when I do the 4 elements, I feel quite comfortable with it. I don't get any negativity, any aversion, depression, anything. But you've got to be very careful with things like, I mean, when I'm doing that earth element, I'm doing it on the body itself, on the 5 component parts of the body, internal organs. I'm going right through, and I still feel quite happy, quite positive, quite settled. But each person has to see what works for them. You've got with any meditation practice, you have to go by feel, and you look at the tranquility effect on the thinking process. If something is really working, you will get tranquility. And say, for example, if you're very smart and you tend to think a lot, then you may have to put as much energy into your, like through the day. You may not have, a lot of free time, but during the day you contemplate almost everything which comes up on a minute-to-minute basis, and then you keep, and with contemplation and investigation, you increase your insight, understanding, and then it increases the energy for samadhi when you go to sit and walk. So, it's something I can easily give you a broad range of things you can work with, but you actually have to see what works for you as the weeks and the months go by. But like when I was first in the monastery, I was doing like love on the breath, the joyful, happy breath, this and that. But for the monastics, they've got to be careful with this, because it really provokes sensuality, and it's something which you don't want as a monk or a nun. But you experiment with these other firmer practices, which may even with the lay disciples can get even better results. But you actually have to see for yourself what works. Did that make any sense?
It does, yeah, thanks. And also, like, on getting reborn in the Deva realms, I understood reincarnation worked the way that where your mind inclines toward is where you're going to get reborn. So if you have wholesome states, you're going to get a better human rebirth. Unwholesome states, lower rebirth, possibly even hell. But I thought to go to the Deva realm, we need to be firmly established in the 4th jhana, or at least the jhanas.
Yeah, I mean, the jhana meditations is not something that you will see very, very often. It's rare, even with the monastics. I mean, like, I know really strong practice monks, and even after 20 to 30 years, they don't have this level of samadhi. People talk about jhanas and this and that. It's just they really don't know what they're talking about until they actually get in it just once, and they'll have a handle on it. But the thing is, the bottom line is, the Devaloka realms are not that difficult to reach. But any of the practitioners that I know, the practitioners that we see here at Dhammaloka, that we see in the monastery, who keep the 5 precepts to the best of their ability. If they have time, they do a bit of practice, they study chanting, this and that, on a daily basis. The vast majority of those people who are consistent, and you know different people, and you know who's consistent and who sort of just has got their toe in the water type of thing. But the vast majority of the consistent practitioners, almost guaranteed, high, you're looking at high 90s, 98, 99%. Will go to the Deva realms, even if it's only 10,000 years, 20, 30,000 years, because an incredible lifespans in these worlds. But you've got to have the supporting parami, the supporting the spirit, your faculties, your spiritual faculties, your wholesome state of mind has to be there. There's no, like, for example, any person. Say religious person, if they don't have real development, and when we talk about real development, it's development that the average person can see. If I introduce any person in this room, and I introduce them to a complete stranger, and I have them chit-chat with that person for at least say 10-20 minutes, and then you ask them, what do you think of that individual, whether it's male or female, young and old, and they will see clearly There is a difference between the people in this room or our regular disciples that we see at the monastery. There's a difference between them and the average person walking the streets in Perth. You can see it very, very quickly because they're practitioners. They're not, they're just not average worldly people. They're in touch with Dhamma. They practice. They do retreats, and it's something. It's something you see very, very quick. The monks can see it very quickly because they see it within themselves. You can see it around you and others. But in essence, if you've got the supporting parami, if your mind is developed, is wholesome enough, you don't have to be a saint. You don't have to be like Gandhi or Mother Teresa. Just being a good person in society, 5 precepts as a basis, and you're able to practice on a daily basis. You're practicing mindfulness and wisdom in daily life to the best of your ability. It's absolutely guaranteed. I won't say 100%, but I could easily say, if you're looking at a person who's even 12 months, if they kept the 5 precepts to the best of their ability, daily practice, even if it was only 5 minutes, bit of study, chanting, meditation, I can almost guarantee that there is enough spiritual power behind that after 12 months to get that person to the Devaloka. I can almost guarantee it, almost say 99%. So, but the whole business, this practice, a lot of it involves, regardless, people are so different with their faculties, but it's a matter of skill. Whatever you're doing, I mean, Dhamma meditation can be quite complicated. The human mind's quite complicated, but it's a matter of you've got to find what works for you. There's all these little tweaks and tricks and methods that I know of. I could think of a dozen of them, and different kinds of meditation and attitudes and this and that. You've got to find what works for you, and then you fine tune these practices to suit oneself.
Are there any deva realms that are better to have intention to incline towards? I understand. Ajahn Brahm said Mara is the head of one deva realm, and in the Susita realm, the Maitreya Buddha is supposedly sitting. Would it be beneficial to avoid the one where Mara is? And
yeah, but with this whole business with like Mara, the tempter, like I said, the personification of evil. But evil beings. I mean, you've got this rendering in the sutra. I've never looked at it in real depth. But truly, beings who have an evil temperament can't survive in the Devaloka realms. As soon as the mind goes bad, the karma just basically drops them from that world. If a person has a wholesome state of consciousness in the Devaloka realms, and that for whatever reason that mind goes bad, becomes quite unwholesome, the supporting karma which brought them to that world, that higher world in the first place, has changed, and that person can prematurely drop from those worlds to a lower level. Your mind is the what's the right words? The quality of your mind is what places you in those worlds. So that Deva world, or even that Brahmaloka world, which are the realms of the jhana practitioners, is equivalent to the quality of your consciousness. So if your mind is at this level, if your mind is at an intermediate to high level, your potential for rebirth will be at that level. Your mind, the quality of your mind will dictate precisely where you will be reborn and for how long, and how big your mansion is in Devaloka, and how much spiritual power you have, and how much psychic potential, and all this kind of thing. So it's your mind is the key to how high or low that you go, but in essence, that it's the whole business with practice. It's all about. It doesn't matter how smart or how simple people are, gender, poor or rich, this and that. It's all about skill. You've got to find what works for you, because if we're doing this business for 5, 10, 20, 30 years plus, all of us have to get on the ball quite early. I mean, it's very easy for me to say these things, but we all of us don't have any choice. We have to try to get our practice. We try to the best quality level that we can. Otherwise, we can end up maybe wasting too much time. Like, say for example, myself, I don't waste my time with meditation practices and techniques which do not get results. If I don't see a significant benefit of any kind of practice whatsoever within 7 days, I just drop it immediately. It's so obvious to me. But with everyone, just that same thing. It's all about skill. But it's for me, because I know you quite well. I can easily lay even things out on paper, and you can experiment. You can go through a dozen things. You could go through 18, 20 different kinds of approaches or whatnot, and you see what gets results. Because with people's paramis, some people have an affinity for things like blue kasina, blue-green kasina. And when they use that object, they may not necessarily be aware of it when they're maybe even a young person, maybe even when they're 20 or 30, but there comes a point where they know for a fact there's certain colours that they absolutely love. And when they use those colours with kasinas, with the coloured discs in meditation, the mind just, the quality of the samadhi is just so much better than anything else they've seen, because they could have been doing it for half a lifetime previously, maybe one or even 2 lifetimes back, and the memory and the development is still there on a deeper level. So as soon as they bring that coloured kasina up, the mind just, I wouldn't say unifies within the first couple of days, but they can feel it. They can feel that the mind is becoming firm and grounded, because they've got an affinity for that. There's a very, very specific colour.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? This lady here. Do you want to jump up with the mic? And
you mentioned something about the earth elements that you find helps you. Could you just briefly tell us what those are?
Just explain it.
What they are and how we could use them.
So what it is with the earth element, this planet and the universe is made up of the 4 great elements within the Buddhist terminology. Like earth, wind, water, fire. And so the earth element, just in a nutshell, the earth element, which is firm and solid. Water element is watery, soft and flowing. The wind element is things like, say, the breath, the wind that we see in nature, things like hurricanes, any kind of movement of air. And in the Chinese system, they equate the wind element, say, like with qi, the movement of energy, of qi in the body. They call, I say, the qi, the breath of life. Something you can easily look into. And then fire is heat. Is either heat internally in the body, digestion, body temperature. Can be external. The temperature that we see with the weather, like volcanoes, the earth, and whatnot, the sun, radiation from the sun. So that you're looking at those 4 great elements, and also you have space and consciousness as a 5th and 6th. But I can't remember how many times the Buddha talked about space and consciousness. But the thing is, the bottom line is, with the meditation, the easy way to start, and you go by feel. I get absolutely no revulsion, no aversion, no negativity at all. I was doing this for the last maybe 20 minutes, and I feel quite good with it. So you do the easy ones first. You do the external parts of the body, head hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin, and do things like, which are tangible, things like nails, head hair, teeth. You can see them clearly, and you do things like say like teeth. Like teeth is earth element. So as you could be sitting meditation, could be walking. You have the 3 syllables, big spaces between the words. Earth, teeth is earth element, or skin is earth element. And so those 5 external components, you can see them easily, you can examine them, you can texture, taste, all the rest. You know them because they're externally. And if you can experiment with those 5, and then you can go inside the body. And I've been doing this I do this for hours a day for the last probably about 6 weeks or so. I mean, I switched completely from anicca sanya. I started running into trouble with anicca sanya after 2.5 years, so I switched to earth, and then go internally, like the heart. The heart is a firm organ. It's and these internal organs, I'm only guessing like 50-60% solid, and then you have water element, you have heat, and also air, the passage of air, movement. With these organs, circulation, and things like liver is earth element. So go right through internally in the body and just watch it. So do it very, very gently, very relaxed. You can do it with the breathing. You can, as you're breathing in, out, it could be like skin. Breathing out, skin. Breathing in, leave a space, is earth. Breathing in, leave a space, element. So nice and relaxed. And then just watch the level of peacefulness in the mind, because the peacefulness will tell you whether the samadhi object, whether the samatha object, the peaceful object, the peaceful meditation is working or not. And you probably only need to do maybe 1 session, and it should be fairly clear, unless your mind is absolutely racing all the time. But that darkness meditation, the dark color meditation, is very, very good for people who just can't stop thinking. It's so neutral, that's why it works well. But with the earth element is much more firm. You can feel it. The samadhi is much firmer, and it lasts a lot longer. Hours afterwards. And then you experiment with it and watch it. And as long as you don't get any negativity with it, revulsion, you shouldn't. I do this for hours a day with this one. I don't get any revulsion, negativity, any like real dispassion virtually at all. But these things are never, they're never a sure thing. You can do a practice, and it works absolutely really well for several years, and then it'll just suddenly turn, it'll go bad. And for a fact you have to change. You have to, you've reached the limit with that practice for a little while. So. But and then you feel it. You feel it out. If it works for you.
If you chant while you're breathing, is that all right as well?
So if you chant.
Yes, while you're breathing in, if you have a chant or something that you're saying positively to yourself, which could help you center better, is that also?
Yeah. You can do the chanting and the breathing together. You can have them within like a circle of awareness.
Yeah.
And I know people who used to do. They used to walk meditation, and they used to do anapanasati at the same time, just to increase the firmness of the meditation. So they would look through the breath, and they would focus on their feet. So the circle of awareness was within the periphery of the body, and that worked very well for that particular individual. So the bottom line, it doesn't. There are parameters with meditation, but the bottom line, if it works for you. You can do. I wouldn't say you can do many things, or not almost anything, because you're looking at Dhamma, you're looking at meditation, looking at wholesome states of mind. But if you do a particular practice, no matter how unusual or how bizarre it is, if you get tranquility of mind, you know you're on the right track. Even if you're a Buddhist and you're visualizing, Jesus Christ up on the cross, and you can get really, really peaceful with that. That's exactly the way you should go, because there's something in you which connects. You could have been a Christian in your last life, and the Buddha's methods may not work so well at this point in time. But there could be Christian mantras, there could be Hindu, even Muslim mantras, chanting, which really work very, very well. But each individual, they have to see, when it comes to meditation tools and approaches to Dhamma, you have to see what works. Okay. From Lithuania, if a brightness arises during meditation, what is it there for? Should it just be left be without doing anything? If you have like real brightness, because every single one of us, we can have lights in the mind. You can have, the mind can brighten up. We can have pinpoints of light. You can have balls of light in the mind. But if you're talking about a genuine, say for example, without sidetracking, with the brightness, what I would tend to do is maintain your focus on the breathing. You don't want to get distracted by mental objects too early, and so maintain your attention on the breathing as best as you can, and then when that light completely overpowers your awareness, overpowers the mind, when you have, say, like a light in the mind, which is about the size of the sun, of our human sun, and is brighter than the sun, then you know for a fact that you're really onto something quite deep. With average meditation, don't allow light or coloured balls or different or movements of visual light moving around. Don't allow it to distract you. But when those lights become really, really big and bright and firm, and you get the this is one of the let's see now, one of the indications when you get really strong bliss, really strong bliss and happiness with that light, then you know you're getting close to the samadhi. You've either got a samadhi nimitta right there arising or developing. It could be flashing at you possibly like a lighthouse. They tend to be more stable than that, the way they're explained. It's not just like something which just blinks on and off. It's not like that. It's right. It's like having the sun, something which is more pure and white and bright than our human sun, inside your mind. That's when you can call that like a genuine samadhi nimitta. And then, but you maintain your focus on the breath with this as to the best of your ability. But if the light completely overpowers you, completely absorbs you, and you have incredibly strong joy and bliss, then you go into the light. But don't let the little lights distract you. But when you get the big stuff, which completely takes your mind over, then you really know you're onto something. From Czech Republic, Dear Ajahn, how to deal with the urge to do something, especially during meditation, even though we know that it will just distort our inner peace, knowing it's unwholesome, but still, say, getting distracted. Okay, so for example, we start to think and proliferate, and we start to daydream, and how things are going with the family and at work and this and that. So what do we do when that's disturbing the meditation? What I would tend to do, if thinking is excessive, you've got to apply your insight, wisdom, vipassana right at that point, because if a person cannot stop thinking, it means they're stuck. They're stuck on that person. They're stuck on those feelings, those views, opinions, work. Could be anything. Traveling. The person could be dreaming about traveling the world. Which might be quite, very, very interesting. but just not right there. When you're actually sitting on your cushion, you can always do that later. But you've got to investigate. You've got to investigate if you are stuck on something. It's the emotional tone, the emotional feeling, is the energy which has got you stuck on that thing, whatever it is. It's your feelings which drive thinking, feelings which drive human behavior. So as you know, you've got to understand why you are thinking of that person, place, work, life in the universe. Because if you don't understand, it just keeps coming back again and again and again. It's like it's knocking at the door of your mind, like here I am, you won't open the door, and you won't speak to me, and you won't find out what I want. It could be a salesman, like a salesman on the door of your mind. So if you don't answer the door, that experience, just keeps tapping away at the door of the mind. It just won't leave you alone, because you're not addressing it. It's not being understood. If anyone is stuck in practice, the bottom line is, if say for example, if I'm thinking or daydreaming or this or that, and this daydreaming will not stop, it means that I'm stuck. I'm stuck right there, and you've got to investigate and contemplate in order to release the mind. The mind in itself is not imbued. We're not born with wisdom. You have to teach yourself that this can be nonsense. This is a waste of time. And I can think about this any other time of the day and nights, but not now. So for example, a particular person in your life, you keep thinking about that person again and again and again, how they're going, if they're well and all this, doing okay. And then you think, well, what's the feeling tone? How do I feel about that person, and why? Why am I so concerned for their welfare? They might be traveling, maybe, they could be sick, they could be in hospital. Why am I so concerned? Why am I so attached? Why am I so attached to this experience? And you've got to, you have to investigate and teach oneself and free the mind, because this stuff is endless. It can just go on for years, 10, 20, 30 years. Exactly that. From Tokyo. How do I notice if I am stressed out? I had a surprise breakthrough to be aware of the unnoticed extent of my stress. So how do I notice if I am stressed out? I had a surprise breakthrough. I mean, maybe with some people, they may not be fully aware of how much pressure they're under, how much stress they're under, because they're so busy. Some people can be so busy they really don't have a full awareness of just of the extent of the pressure they're under, because they can feel it at the surface level, but they could have been under pressure, like at work. They could be a CEO and they've been under pressure for 5 to 10 years, and they really just don't know. They're not fully aware just how deep it's gone into their psyche. But the bottom line is, if you say, for example, you're stressed, it's that same thing I mentioned before. You have to contemplate and understand oneself. And say, for example, a person gets stressed, you've got to find the techniques which work for you. You have to understand what you're going through. There's things like, there could be anything. There could be certain positive sort of attitudes, like there could be, good quality books. There could be like going for a walk. I knew one couple, and these guys were they were really focused. They were up at 4 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock in the morning. Say 4:30. They're up at 4:30 in the morning. They would go for a walk at 5 a.m. They'd walk the dogs for absolute minimum 30, 45 minutes. And then have breakfast, get ready for work. They were both very quite intelligent people, high powered, running a business, so those part of their routine were to go walking early morning when it's peaceful, when it's quiet, the air is still, the temperatures may be quite pleasant, with the puppy dogs. And those two guys loved it. That was their part of their daily routine. So you have to see what works for you. I mean, I knew one guy who would take like a little blanket. Like he was working in the city, and he would just take a little a cotton blanket, and then he would go to one of the big parks in the city that was within walking distance. There were 2 parks. And then you would find a quiet corner of the park and either lay under a tree and look up at the leaves or look up at the say the open sky, with the clouds moving through in this this beautiful blue sky. And he found that very, very relaxing. So he would do that for nothing less than say 10-20 minutes a day. And he had his backpack, little backpack. And then he would, because the guy was wearing a suit. He was wearing a suit, so he'd amble down to the park with his backpack on and his little blanket, and then just basically just crash out, lay back, and look up at the leaves or look up at the sky. Fluffy clouds and a blue sky moving through, and then he could go back to work. Just in a state of ease. He was relaxed. He felt at ease. His stress level dropped, and he was able to, by focusing on these natural things, he was able to quieten his mind just a little bit. He was able to free his mind from all that stuff. Because you're the CEO of a company, and you're really, really busy, and but he found that worked very, very well for him because he didn't have time for meditation retreats, or for maybe possibly weekends at some health farm, or all the other wonderful things that we can do to relax and bring a sense of happiness and ease in one's life. And but in essence, with stress, you've got to what works for you, what makes you happy, peaceful, brings about a sense of well-being. I mean, some people, they could have a sense of well-being just playing ping pong. So maybe in the middle of work, maybe in the office has got a games room, they might play ping pong, or they might have a round of snooker. They've got maybe an hour for lunch. They play snooker for 30 minutes, and then they have sandwiches and a cup of coffee or tea. And so different things work for different people. From USA, please excuse my ignorance, but I would like to know how, if one is not to use thinking, do I investigate my thinking or an experience? But I would like to know how, if one is not to use thinking, do I investigate my thinking or an experience? What I would do is, if you're meditating, you don't see any peace of mind at all. The mind is quite busy. Then I would immediately go to investigation, because you need to understand, what you're going through, and why and where and what for. As soon as you start investigating your experience, you stop. Once you start meditating again, you will see that the tranquility, the quality of the tranquility will increase. The energy for samadhi will increase. And if your mind just doesn't stop, you just keep going back and forth every couple of minutes. So you do your meditation for several minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, then you go straight to investigation, and you investigate. It doesn't matter what comes up. It could be like, what brand of cornflakes am I going to buy this week for the shopping? It doesn't matter how innocuous or how irrelevant it is. You have to examine that, because that is blocking you, and so meditate for a couple of minutes. You choose the meditation which is best for you, 2 or 3 minutes, and then you go back and forth between the sitting, walking meditation and investigation. And if you want to see results, if you've got a mind which won't stop, that's what you do. You go back and forth every 2 to 3 minutes for 30 minutes an hour. And you've got to teach oneself the mind to be, what's the right words? The mind doesn't know. In its natural state, your mind does not know or understand very much at all. And you have to use the power of your brain, your intellect, the intellectual qualities, the thinking process within the mind, within the four mental khandhas, the mind complex. You have to use that to free oneself. Okie doke, that's basically it. So we're all wrapped up. Okay, thank you very much for your attention.